Jeff Baumgartner with Light Radio. I'm here with Dennis Hong with Verizon. So we're here at the big 5G event. And
Yes.
5G covers a ton of ground. So at Verizon, what specific portion of the ground are you focused on right now?
Yeah, my focus is on smart city, and then we're trying to understand how we can use 5G and edge compute, and also the smart city infrastructure to improve the safety of autonomous vehicles. That's my focus.
Okay. And what we hear a lot about autonomous vehicles being a major potential or future use case
Sure.
for 5G. Not to put a crystal ball in your hand and look into it and tell us, but I mean, how far into the future are we really talking about? We've seen some demos and things, but
Sure.
how far in the future are we until we see fully automated vehicles on the road?
And the way I look at it is that there could be different stages. And right now I'm basically looking at not so much about personal autonomous vehicles,
Okay.
but more autonomous shuttles. For example, like a lot of cities, they have issues with traffic. Even Denver, right? And Los Angeles, San Francisco. And they try to move people to use transit. But the problem is that people have to drive to transit center, and then they get there, and then they have no way to get to a destination. So what cities is trying to do is to think about whether they can use autonomous shuttle from the neighborhood to the transit, and from the transit to the neighborhoods.
Okay.
So that probably, I think, is going to happen in the next few years before we have actually personal autonomous vehicles. That's what my focus has been, and I think that's more like a near term maybe I would say pilot and solutions.
All right. So it's in that smart cities category. So it's kind of an element of the
Yes.
smart cities is a smart shuttle. Okay.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
All right. And mobile edge compute, big topic here. So another area that is kind of in development, right? So give us a little status on kind of your work in that area and why this is important to 5G and some of these applications that need low latency.
Yeah, definitely important. For smart city solution, our solution basically based a lot on smart cameras that have like GPU inside. So we have our AI running on the smart cameras, but those are expensive.
Right.
And with 5G and Mac, what we can do is that we can actually move our computer vision, our AI, from the camera itself to the Mac, and using 5G to feed that video into the Mac. For example, like think about autonomous vehicle. If it's going to turn right, it may not be able to see the pedestrian because it's blocked by a tree or whatever, right? And so it could be dangerous. And so if we have cameras in the intersection, those cameras could be very cheap cameras, and they feed video to the Mac using 5G. And then the Mac perform all these AI algorithms and be able to send alert to the autonomous vehicles maybe 5 seconds before it turn right,
Okay.
potentially hitting the pedestrian. So we see a lot of use cases which take advantage of the bandwidth in 5G and the low latency in the Mac.
Interesting. So it's almost like you can use this technology to literally look around a corner.
Yes, and also at the same time, think about like autonomous vehicles. The sensors, the LiDAR, the radar, the camera, themselves cost about 40 grand. I don't think you and me, right, are going to pay 40 grand just for the sensors, right? Not the vehicle itself.
Definitely not me. I don't know about you, but yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about this, right?
Yeah.
Automobile OEMs, right? They want to lower the cost, right?
Right.
They are not going to pay 40, 20 grand in a vehicle.
Right.
So if they can move some of the compute from the cars into the Mac, that would
Into the
save
infrastructure, yeah.
into the edge compute. That could save that $5,000, $10,000. That's very significant if you multiply by 1 million, 2 million vehicles. So I think there could be a lot of interesting use cases that could take advantage of the Mac, of the edge compute in the 5G network.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about, because AI is in your wheelhouse here too, and
Yes.
and quite honestly, it's kind of a term that gets used a lot in a lot of different ways, a lot of different aspects. But with respect to 5G and what you're working on, how's AI going to manifest itself?
I think AI is definitely important, especially for smart city, because we use AI to recognize vehicles, to recognize pedestrians, also to recognize maybe dangerous situation like the vehicle hitting like pedestrian. And I think with 5G and Mac, I think AI is going to move much faster because we can actually run AI on the edge compute. And so I think which is going to facilitate the deployment of AI in the network and improving, I think, the safety of citizens and vehicles.
All right. Well, Dennis, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it and all your answers on this.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
you.